Hi, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So for those of you who haven't been here in a while, you know that we are usually only in this, in our chapel in the weeks that precede the high holidays and the ones that follow them. It's always nice to be in here because it's a little bit more intimate, but I will say, if you haven't been in here for a while, that the sound is really different. So if at any point, first of all, you think that you sound amazing, it's true, you do sound amazing, but also sometimes it's super loud. So please give us a heads up if it's louder than you think it's going to be. And we know that it is the time of year that we are supposed to be in here because today is officially the first of Elul. And when we reach the first of Elul, it means that we are ready to start really turning our hearts and our thoughts towards the high holidays and the messages of doing tshuva and returning to God and returning to the best version of ourselves. So we're going to start with a song that we often sing this time of year. And the words are very simple. It's just, we return. We return. We return. We return. We return. Return again. Beautiful again. We return. We return. We return. Return again and again to love. To love. Return again to love. Beautiful. And we will return to that one at the end of the service as well. But let's maybe do another song to welcome each other in. This one, the words are in your Siddur. They're one of our welcoming songs on the top of page 10. And we say how good and pleasant it is to be brothers and sisters, families dwelling together. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. So we officially begin our Shabbat services each week by doing some of the Shabbat table rituals, and so it's my pleasure to invite Miss Rochelle and Ella to help lead us in the lighting of our Shabbat candles. And if you were not here last week, you should know that Rochelle had a very big week last week because she became officially a member of the tribe. But after tonight, we're not going to mention it again because in Judaism, you just say she is. But it was pretty cool, so we wanted to remind you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. And will you, since you're up here, will you do a little kiddush for us? Beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Borei Peri Hagafen. Amen. And Rochelle, will you see if there's a little challah in there? Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Beautiful, thank you. When we come together for Shabbat, we're told that there's so many different teachings. One says that we are given an extra soul on Shabbat, but another says that angels come into our midst. And so in 24, we sing the song that welcomes these angels into our presence each time we celebrate Shabbat together. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Yasharet, Malachei do one more Kabbalat Shabbat song to get us in the mood. This one is back on page 20. And for this one, we'll just do the verse and the first chorus. This is one that Rabbi Michael and I like to do, that even if you don't know this prayer well, we hope that the tune will sound at least a little bit familiar. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabala. Shamor v'zachor b'diborecha, Hishmiyanu el ha'miuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litzila. Remember me to one who lives there. She once was a true love of mine. By the way, if you haven't listened to the new, it's not that new anymore, but the new Paul Simon album, Psalms, 7 Psalms, it's so good. We wanted to do all of the high holidays based on just that album. Someone said no to me, but it's really good.
Always the bad guy.
So I'll ask if you will to please turn to page 28 and rise, and we'll call each other to worship with the words of the Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu et Adonai, HaMevorach. on the top of page 31.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. And we read responsively on the bottom of 33, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works in the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we join in the watchword of our faith on page 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'beitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shofbecha uv'kumecha uk'shartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kadoshim le'elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem le'elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. On 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh, lo rati lo osei feleh, lo rati lo osei feleh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh. I hope you can hear out there. You guys sound so beautiful. It's really,
Big,
it is
very big
amazing. And the idea of being able to sing together, sometimes even if you don't exactly know the words or you don't know what they mean, sometimes it's just about lifting our voices in song and hearing the way they blend, that it feels like a prayer in the most amazing way. So we'll do one more before we get to Tefillah. This one is Hashkivenu on page 42. And with this one, there'll be an English verse in the middle, but the idea of Hashkivenu is just to ask God wherever we go to spread a shelter of peace over all of us so we feel God's protection wherever we may travel. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. shomreinu lechayim. It's on page 46. I invite you now to rise and we'll join together in words of tefillah. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agita yilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotzeinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham v'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav lehoshia, Mechakel chayim b'chesed, Mechayei hakol b'rachamim rabim, Somech noflim v'ofech olim, Umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melech, melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakom. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. On the top of 53.
Days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it.
Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. So this morning, Rabbi Michael and I were working with a bar mitzvah student, and it came time for the prayer for peace, and he said, can we do Shalom Rav? And I said, well, the truth is that you can't. You see, Judaism has this tradition that we say different prayers at different times of day, and Shalom Rav is our evening song, and Sim Shalom is our morning song. Now, the truth is, it really shouldn't matter. The message is about the same. But I'd like to think that the reason we have it is that we know that when we're praying for something like peace, we need as many prayers as possible. We need as many versions of basically the same words. So if we're offering a prayer for peace, we can hope that this will be the prayer that reaches God's ears and that finally peace will come to us, to the people of Israel, and to all the world. So on page 60, Shalom Rav. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Ki ata melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav, O Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Bishlomecha, Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, Tasim La'olam. Tasim La'olam. So at this point in our service, we are going to turn to page 253 so that we can offer prayers for healing. You know, every week when we do this, we give an opportunity, which we'll give in just a moment, to ask those of you who are thinking of someone who could use healing prayers to share their names. But Rabbi Michael and I, too, have a list of names that we keep each week, and I will tell you that there is nothing better than crossing someone off the list because they've told us that they're feeling better and that they don't need these prayers anymore. Because we know that when you do need these prayers, it means the world to think that there's a whole room of people who are praying for you and just hoping things will get a little bit better. So if there's someone who you're thinking of who could use a little healing and who would appreciate their names being shared, we'll invite you to do so at this time. So we're thinking too today of Arlene Alper and Marcia Gillerman, of Drew Patchen and Lacey Weinstein, of Ellen Weiss, and those who we're thinking of in our hearts, even if they're not quite ready for us to say their names. For us and for them, we sing a healing prayer on 253 with the words of Misha Berach. So this week, in the Torah portion, The parsha is called Shoftim, which means judges. And it has one of the probably most famous lines in the Torah. It says, Tzedek, tzedek tirdof, which means justice, justice you shall pursue, which is a beautiful and noble idea. But for the lawyers in the room, I'm looking over in the section over here, or really for anyone who has ever had some sort of experience with the law before, or even just read the news, you know that it's not so easy to just say, let's pursue justice and call it a day. You also can't simply say, let's get wonderful judges in place and let's make sure that there are fair laws, because there are often so many exceptions to the laws and so many exceptions to the rules. And so the Torah tries to do its best to give us just a few of those exceptions so we know exactly how to move forward with this idea, tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Now, one of the teachings that comes from this week's Torah portion, we call it egla arufa. What is it? A torn cow? Is that what it is? Yeah, kind of. It's a gross word. It's about something that you do to a cow that's not very nice. But I'll take a step back and explain what this is. And we have some little ones that are here tonight, so I'm going to say it as nicely as I can. So the situation that they are going to try to deal with is someone who has met his untimely end, and it was not of natural causes. Okay, everyone get where we are? Yeah, maybe not the kiddos in the back? Okay, but yes, someone has met an untimely end, not through natural causes, and they find this person, and no one knows who he is, and no one knows who has done him in. And so the question is, how do you pursue justice in a case like this? And this is where they come up with the ritual of egla arufa, which I'm not going to give you all the details because it's a little bit gross. But basically, you take a perfect cow, and you take this cow, and the cow is also going to meet an untimely end, and then they do sort of this whole procedure with the cow where they say a blessing, and they sort of wash their hands in the cow. It's a little bit gross. I won't give you the details. But what I will tell you about it is that Jewish tradition refers to this ritual of the egla arufa as one of the chukim, which is basically there are certain laws in the Torah that we look at them and we say, what? It doesn't really seem to make any sense or have any real reason. This is one of them. There's another one, also cow-related, about finding this perfect red heifer that you have to sacrifice. Another example is the prohibition that you're not supposed to mix wool and linen together. I don't know why. Ella, you could probably explain that, but it's nonsensical. But we have these laws that maybe don't seem to make a lot of sense into what the ritual is, but because we're Jews and we love to ask questions and we love to try and find some sort of rationale, we have many, many different commentaries on why in the Torah they felt that there had to be some sort of ritual reaction to this poor gentleman who met his untimely end, not through natural circumstances. So the question is, why would they have had to have a ritual at all? Especially knowing that in some way it is going to relate to this idea of tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice you shall pursue. And so the first reason that I'm going to share with you, and there are a ton, we're only going to do three. The first reason that I'm going to share with you is one that actually comes from the Talmud. And what it says is, look, this person is in the wilderness. We have no idea who he is. We have no idea what could have happened to him, but no one is coming and looking for him. The people very simply could have said, and just left him there. They could have easily said, oh, we didn't see any guy, we didn't see a body, but no, they knew that something terrible had happened to this person and that it was their responsibility to act in a just way no matter what. And so they create this ritual to at least acknowledge something terrible has happened to a person, and while we were not responsible for the harm that happened to him, we are at least going to own up to the fact that something awful happened within our midst. We are going to do our best to make sure that some sort of justice is offered, even if it's just through an animal sacrifice. We're going to say something has been lost. We want to share that. That's answer number one. Answer number two that I'm going to give you is from Maimonides, from the Rambam. And Maimonides is around the year 1200 or so. And what Maimonides says is, he says, this is a time before police work. Maimonides doesn't say that, I'm just going to say that. There was no police work then. There was no one who was going to go and have some sort of CSI experience and figure out exactly what happened to him and, do the fingerprints and everything. No one's going to know, which also means that if this person has someone looking for him, they're never going to find him. And so what Maimonides says is the reason we have this ritual is that this ritual is such a big deal that people will talk about it. And that perhaps if people are talking about it, then they will share the message with a person in a town over, and they will share the message with a person in a town over, and that perhaps this person and whoever loves him, that they will then know about it. So Maimonides says the reason we do this is to make sure that if this person is loved and known, that we are able to make sure that that those who lost him, that they are made aware. And so number 3 is, I think, the most complicated, but is the most interesting. This one comes from Rashi. He's about 200 years before Maimonides. And what Rashi says is he makes an assumption about this person who we've found. He says, what was this person doing out alone? If this person was out alone without a community, something must have gone wrong. Because why would a person ever be totally by themselves and without a community? He also makes the assumption that this person must have actually fallen on such hard times that perhaps he was like a robber or some sort of like a highwayman, that in some way this person must have been trying to do harm to others, and that is why he was killed. But Rashi also says we should assume that this person was poor. He brings all of these things up because in Rashi's mind, he says not only should everyone have a community, but he said that no one would ever intentionally do harm unless they were in a place where they were in poverty. He's trying to teach us that everyone has a good soul, that the only time when people would act poorly is if they were put in such a position that they felt that they had to act poorly. And then, if you're still with me, he says that the reason that we do this act is so all the people in the surrounding towns can say, he's not one of us. Because if we had a poor person come to our community, we would have cared for him. That our community is one who has all of the systems in place to make sure that people do not live in poverty, and therefore that they also do not then turn to acts of violence, in turn that they therefore also will not meet a violent end themselves. Each of these steps is just his way of showing that we as a community should always be responsible for each other, and that all of these are expectations of this. Now, all of these different answers, they seem so random, and the truth is we have no idea if this ritual ever took place. If it did, it certainly did not take place any time in the modern era. But what's fascinating about it is that each teaching here, all of them are ways that we should be able to pursue justice. All of them were ways that the people of that community said, we are going to make sure that justice is served. We are going to make sure that if someone has met some sort of terrible end, that their family and their loved ones know about it and can come and do whatever they can. And also says that we are responsible for each other, whether they are poor or whether they are in an unfortunate situation. The Jewish community should be there to care for them. All of these ideas wrapped up in one little super weird ritual involving a cow. Now, I'm not going to suggest that any of us go out and we try this cow ritual ourselves. Again, gross. But the idea that we read this, and this is one of the teachings given about justice, and it seems so incredibly difficult to do, but we're supposed to remember that justice should be complicated, but it should also be something that we pursue at all costs. At the end of the day, just like all of these made the same assumption, we should assume that anyone who is either the victim or the perpetrator of a crime, that they are still one of us, that they are still part of our community, that they deserve justice, and that they deserve to be treated like humans who should be surrounded by community. So as we move forward into this month of Elul, a time when we are supposed to be reflecting on everything that we can and should be in the year ahead, may we find that the call to justice is one that truly speaks to us this year. That when we are trying to make not only ourselves better, but our community better, it is justice that we fight for at all costs. Shabbat Shalom. So I'll ask you now, if you will, to please rise on page 282 for the words of the Aleinu. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'artzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchakenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. On 287.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech ha'chol ha'aretz bayom ha'hu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo So at this time, our hearts turn to those in our community who have experienced a recent loss, and we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days: Carl Neblock, Jeremy Newton, Janice Rumfeld, and Steve Schmidt. And we now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. Harvey Mickey Altman, Ruth Louise Kirst Aronson, Irvin Barker, Hortense Baum, Maida Pollock Bettman, Helene Bienenstock, Margaret Katz Bloom, David Boxer, Rabbi Eric Bram, Rose Bromberd, Eva Cohn, Beatrice Crone, Joseph Davidson, Esther Fishman, Leon Friedheim, Ada Amyton Garfinkel, Harry Gertz, Julius Glazer, Florence Godwin, Sharon Shapiro Goldenher, Lois Abrams Greenman, Ruth Singer Grossman, Henry Grotsky, Julia Hyman, Hyman Hirschman, Rosalie Axelbaum Hinch, Nathan Horowitz, Jay Sanford Israel, Carolyn Jacobs, Flora Jacobs, Lena Sherman Katz, Marlene Green Kottman, Dan Coslow, Eric Levi, Ann Levy, W. Patrick Malley, Morris Michaelston, Goldie Sternberg Mogerman, Samuel Morgan, Paul Peltison, Dr. Jeffrey Stephen Pevnick, Dr. Aaron Righteous, Martha Rosen, Eleanor Rosenblum, Pearl Bell Rufa, Ben Sachs, Dorothy Schneider, Estelle R. Seidel, Nathaniel Sorenko, Nina Etman Stein, Henry Strauss, Lillian Sunheimer, Bertha Weil, Dr. Saul Weissman, and Roland Wolford. So with these names and the names we keep in our hearts, we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on 294. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divarach yirtzeh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mavarach la'alam u'mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudasha barichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'ama v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemayim, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu seated. So before we do our closing song, a few things. First of all, you'll see a lot of stuff that's coming up on your little Shabbat sheets. Just two things I want to direct you to. One is that for those of you who took the history of anti-Semitism in June and who left the class being like, but what do we do about it? We actually do have some answers. And so this Sunday, Jordan Kadosh, who is the head of the ADL, is going to be here and going to be talking to us. He's really fantastic and he's relatively new. So if you'd like to come and hear him, that's going to be on Sunday morning. And we also have a lot of other different opportunities coming up in the weeks to come as we prepare for the High Holy Days. But one last thing that I have to tell you that does connect just a little bit to the Devar Torah tonight. So part of why it's a little bit upsetting about the cow ritual is because you guys might not have known this, but today actually is Rosh Hashanah. But it's not the regular Rosh Hashanah. It's not the one you know of. There are 4 Rosh Hashanahs during the year. This Rosh Hashanah is the Rosh Hashanah for the animals, which is a little bit upsetting that this is also when we read this ritual. But there's not a lot that you have to do or that you should do for Rosh Hashanah for the animals, except go home. Yeah, don't give your dog a honey cake. Actually, I don't know. Can dogs have honey cake? Yeah. But this is specifically actually for domesticated animals. So if you do have fur babies or I don't know, lizards or domesticated animals in your home, you are supposed to give them a little bit of extra love tonight. Don't tell them about the cow thing, just give them a nice big hug. So we are going to conclude the way we started with We Return. We return, we return, we return. Shabbat Shalom.
And a very happy birthday to the birthday boy. I won't say what his name is, sitting all the way in the back there. Always a bar mitzvah. Mazel tov. Hey, listen, I'm busy next weekend. Do you want to fill in? Because that was great. Okay, good. Hi.